Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of our weekly Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Roundup. As usual, we're joined by Derek, Ash, and John to go over all the updates from the Super Smash Bros. Blog, as well as any other big Smash Bros. News from the past week. Which also means, by the way, there's only 23 episodes left until launch, which is kind of crazy. So let's get right into it. And right away, the week began on Sunday with a character overview of Corrin, including a trailer as well as this brand new description reading, Corrin was available as a downloadable fighter in the previous version of Super Smash Bros. This fighter uses all kinds of attacks like Torrential Rain and Dragon Fang Shot. Players can choose male or female versions. Now, I was never really a big Corrin fighter in the original game, so maybe you guys can speak more to this character than I can, especially you, Derek, because you're a big Fire Emblem guy in general. But from what I can tell here, this seems to be very much the same character, right down to the final Smash, which looks identical to how it did in Smash Bros. 4.
Yeah, nothing seems changed about Corrin. It is the same as ever. It is about what you'd expect, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because Corrin does play quite differently from all the other Fire Emblem characters. Yeah, he has a sword, but he also transforms into a dragon for a lot of moves, or at least partially, which makes him a little interesting and a little different from the other characters. But if you're familiar with Corrin from Smash Wii U and 3DS, yeah, you're not really in for any surprises with this character.
Derek, I don't approve of your sexist language there.
Oh, well, to be honest, I actually prefer the female design of Corrin. It's much better.
I was actually going to say, I refer to Corrin exclusively as a she, because I only ever play female Corrin. Because there's something about male Corrin that I just find to be so exceedingly lame. I don't know, maybe it's his voice, maybe it's his design, I don't know, but male Corrin sucks in my opinion, and I only ever play female Corrin.
I think it's partially the voice.
It might, yeah, like it's just such a whiny voice, and like, I don't know, like I like playing pink-haired female Corrin.
Which is weird because it's Cam Clark, who is the voice of Leonardo in TMNT.
And same thing as like Liquid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. He's like, Cam Clark is great, but there's just something about male Corrin. I just can't get down with him, so I always play female Corrin. But yeah, I play Corrin once in a while, and or regularly, I would say. And this sounds exactly like the Corrin we had in Smash 4. So I'm not expecting too many crazy changes. And Corrin already got hit with the Nerf bat a few times in Smash 4, so I'm kind of expecting him and her to stay relatively, similar to what they were in Smash 4 after the nerfs.
I think Corrin's probably my least played character in all of Smash ever.
Wow, ever? We're getting Pichu as part of this?
Yeah, I play as Pichu quite a lot in Melee, actually. I think it's probably because all the other DLC characters are really interesting, like Ryu and Bayonetta and Cloud, and Corrin's just kind of this iterative. I mean, it's completely different to other Fire Emblem characters, but it's still like an iterative franchise. So I didn't really play a whole lot of Corrin in Smash 4. So yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of impressions on this, because it looks pretty much the exact same, and I wasn't really that into it previously, so yeah, not a big fan of Corrin.
I do like, as I think it was Derek or Ash touched on, like the character, as you all have really, the character really does feel distinct. But for me, I'm not a big Fire Emblem guy, so I don't have that hook there really to use the character, which isn't necessarily a prerequisite, but I don't know if I was just a big fan of how they played in general, just because they are so different from the other characters. So I appreciate them for that, like I respect that the character is so very different from many of the others, but it's just not a playstyle I'm used to, or one that quite appeals to me.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's at the end of the day, Corrin is still a Fire Emblem character, and even though it is, Corrin is still a completely unique character next to like Marth and Ike and Lucina and such, at the end of the day, they don't feel all that different from, the overall, this is a Fire Emblem character in Smash archetype. So, if you're not into Fire Emblem in general, or if you're not into maining Fire Emblem characters, I don't think there's a whole lot about Corrin that would change your mind.
Yeah, when you were saying they got hit by the Nerf bat, I'm like, wouldn't it be interesting if there were a Fire Emblem character that actually used a bat instead of a sword?
Right, yeah.
One quick thing, since I noted how the Final Smash appears to be completely unchanged, do you think maybe when they're making some of these DLC characters, they already had some idea of where they wanted to go with Final Smashes and started designing them in mind, or with that in mind, so they have to redesign them just a couple of years later for Smash Ultimate?
I didn't think about that. Do we know Bayonetta's new Final Smash, or if she has a new Final Smash?
Bayonetta's Final Smash was pretty cinematic in Smash 4, so I don't really think they're going to change that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if they were all cinematic, then I would say maybe.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Makes sense.
So let's move on to Monday, where I think we'll have a little bit more to touch on, because even though it is another character overview trailer, it's for a character making their return from missing Smash Bros. 4, being Snake. So of course we got their character overview trailer along with a new description that reads, "Backed by popular demand, Snake brings a ranged fighting style unlike any other fighter in the game. His final smash locks onto an opponent and fires 5 homing missiles." So Snake coming back is, I mean, first off, awesome, and I loved how this was kind of the character they used in the reveal of Smash Bros. Ultimate to show that all the characters are coming back. This is the character they used to be like, hey, they're all coming back. And what's great too about Snake is the importance he has in Smash Bros., which is kind of a weird thing to say, because at the time, he doesn't seem like a character that would normally fit in with Smash, but he's the one that kind of started it all when it comes to third-party characters being in Smash. Because it wasn't until he appeared that it kind of opened the floodgates to everyone else appearing. In fact, Hideo Kojima actually wanted Snake to appear in Smash Bros. Melee. Unfortunately, they just didn't have time to add him in because that game was under a pretty rushed development cycle. So in a way, Snake is, strangely enough, a super important character to the franchise.
Which is really weird too, because like when you think about it, you would think that like Sonic would have been the one to start off the third-party characters, just because Sonic was always the one that was the most highly requested third-party character.
And rumored with the EGM, you know.
And rumored. Yeah, exactly.
Joke,
and
right.
then so
Yeah,
but it
more
was
April
actually
Fool's
Snake.
than rumor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's true. But yeah, so it actually was Snake that kind of started this whole deluge of third-party characters, and it's kind of weird because when you think of like third-party characters in general, Snake is not the first one that comes to mind when it comes to, you know, Smash Brothers. He's not even the third or fourth that comes to mind,
because
really.
he's primarily been a PlayStation character. I mean, he has a history with Nintendo, but when you think of Snake, or at least when you used to think of Snake, it was in association with PlayStation primarily.
Yeah, how funny is it that Snake and Cloud weren't in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, but they are here in Smash?
That is never going to be like the incredible irony of that, especially where Cloud's concerned. That's just, it's never going to stop being amazing to me. But I mean, yeah, but based on what I've played of Snake in Smash Bros. Ultimate, he hasn't changed all that much. I mean, he does come back sans butt, which I think is kind of unfortunate. But you know, other than that, I mean, he really, I was never a Snake main. I was never good playing Snake at all. And sure enough, every time I tried to play Snake in Ultimate, I got completely just destroyed. So that tells me that Snake hasn't changed too much because I'm still terrible with him. And but you know, he still has the Nikita launcher, and he has his grenades and his mines, and he's still very much a tricky, technical kind of, you know, you have to set up traps and stuff, and he plays very similar to how he used to, as far as I can tell.
Which is good, actually. Like, I'm usually all about character change, but I felt like something was missing from Smash Bros. 4, and it was a character along the lines of Snake, or even just Snake himself, because he was so different in Smash Bros. Brawl from all the other characters, a very technical fighter. Not that there weren't other technical fighters, but he was uniquely technical. That I felt like, there was just something missing without him being in Smash Bros. 4. So I'm glad he's back, because even though he is a tricky character to use, he's also a very fun one, and one that's rewarding when you get good with some of his strats, or some of his moves, like his remote bombs, or not remote bombs, that's what Link has now, but his remote detonators.
We even sort of designed the Inkling with the idea that it was kind of replacing Snake in a way. When we did our whole video on that. But I did get to play Snake at the recent Nintendo Post E3 event that I went to, and got to try him out for myself, and I agree with Ash. He's basically unchanged. He feels very much the same, other than his final smash, which was interesting because, you know, you got to lock on to the characters on screen, then you fire out the missiles.
Right.
So I think it's interesting that you can decide whether to focus on one character and shoot all 5 of those missiles, or spread it out and try to hit everybody.
It's not automatic then. You're actually controlling the cursor still?
Yes, it's very much like Giga Bowser, where you have to aim.
Okay.
So you're taking a reticle all across the screen.
Okay.
And trying to line it up with the characters as they're dodging and whatnot. But once you're locked on, you're locked on. And it's pretty fun, pretty effective. But I like that little bit of. I think there's a strategy element to it. It happened very quick, and I didn't know about the whole 5 missile thing. All I knew is all of a sudden there was a reticle in front of me. It's like, oh crap, I gotta assign this and get it right. But from my limited memory, I think there's a limit. Like, you still only have 5 missiles no matter what. It just spreads it out between how many fighters you actually target.
And how cool is it that David Hayter is back as Snake again? I mean, he's reprising Snake in Smash, and also Super Bomberman R as well. And he even appeared in the most recent Bloodstained trailer. So this guy's just getting around this week.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great to hear him as Zangetsu in Bloodstained.
Well, and I was actually going to bring up the same thing, just because, I mean, not only is it great to have David Hayter back, but personally, for me, one of the most exciting things about Snake coming back has nothing to do with playing as him, but the codec conversations. I want new codec conversations for all the characters that weren't in Brawl.
I was just going to ask, so we know that David Hayter is back as Snake. Do we know that he's actually recording new lines, though?
He confirmed that he is playing. He's confirmed that he's reprising Snake. So I'm not sure if they would just reuse clips from Brawl again. But yeah, he redid his lines for Bomberman R. Like, those are entirely new lines. So yeah, I'd imagine he'd be doing new stuff.
The fact that he has announced that he's reprising the role means that he is giving new lines, because they didn't. The Roger Craig Smith, I don't think he made a big announcement. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm recording new lines for Smash Wii U, because they all just use voice clips from his other games. So I think he will have new lines.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so.
I feel like if he went out of his way to announce that, then he probably does. I certainly hope he does, and if so, yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't really an announcement from what I saw, unless he elaborated farther. Someone just tweeted at him, and he replied to that tweet, I think. He's like, yeah, that's my voice. So that's why I was wondering, do we actually know for sure if he's recording new lines or not? Because I think that would be pretty telling in terms of the codec conversations coming back. If he is recording new lines, I would think that would be because he wanted to do more codec lines. Otherwise, what's the point of bringing him back?
Well, and also based on what we know of Sakurai, like I can't imagine with his love of completeness and fan service and just dotting every I and crossing every T, I feel like it would hurt him physically to have to bring Snake back and only have codec conversations for like 2/3 of the cast. Like, I feel like that's just the kind of thing that Sakurai would want to come back and finish and have him record new lines.
Well, they already kind of did that, though, in Smash Bros. 4, where they didn't bother giving DLC characters a new Palutena's guidance.
I mean, that's true. Yeah, I mean, but that's DLC characters. I feel like it's slightly different. I mean, I see what you're saying, though.
That does make me excited for the maybe the DLC characters will finally get at least Palutena's guidances.
I hope
That's
so.
true. Hopefully, because they're a part of the base roster this time. But yeah, like I really want to know what Snake would have to say about Cloud and Mega Man and Ryu and all these Wii Fit Trainer, and especially Wii Fit Trainer, given Snake's penchant for womanizing. Like, I want to hear all the ridiculous things it'd say. So hopefully it happens.
I love the image that's going around where it's just a codec conversation from Brawl, and it's like, there's a freaking dragon here, and it's Ridley. There's a dragon here.
Exactly, Ridley. Like, I really, genuinely want to hear what he would have to say about these characters.
Oh, it'd be great. Yeah, it's like, how does Ridley fit in this stage? I don't get it.
Exactly.
No, I mean, those are some of my favorite things about, or in terms of Easter eggs from Smash Brothers. Like, they put all this detail into these conversations that are extremely well hidden, by the way. I forget how you even unlocked the codec conversations, but it wasn't like something the game told you about, I don't think.
No, you had to press left and right on the D-pad over and over again, I think, repeatedly. It was really weird. And I actually personally, what I really want to see happen is Snake's codec conversation about Palutena, because I feel like there's massive, just meta fourth wall breaking potential there, because they are the characters that have those conversations. So I feel like those conversations about each other could be especially great.
It would also be cool if the Grey Fox Assist Trophy comes back. We could have another actor in this game being Ash's dad.
I was going to mention that. I'm so annoyed that you brought that up before I did, but I was thinking about that. But no, it's funny because my dad, when he was the Assist Trophy in Brawl, he actually they didn't bring him in to record any lines because they actually reused his line from the Twin Snakes.
So there's precedence for this, I'm just saying.
Exactly. So I am hoping that if the Grey Fox Assist Trophy comes back, I hope that they actually bring him in to record a brand new line, although I don't necessarily see why they would feel they'd need.
I am glad that they're also bringing back the Shadow Moses stage, because I thought that was a really fun stage.
Oh, it's so much fun.
I've always liked that one.
It's just ridiculous, with you bouncing between the walls constantly, and how, you never quite know if you're out or not, at least if you get hit against a wall. I just love that dynamic, how the walls crumble around you.
I'm not necessarily expecting it, but I would really, really like to see, the full, actual vocal version of Snake Eater make it into the game as one of the Shadow Moses Island songs, because Snake Eater's so good.
It is great.
I love it.
I guess real quick, just a couple more notes. They did change Snake's icon to an exclamation mark. We've touched on this before, I think, in our main discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly to disassociate with Kojima.
Yeah. Because
especially since
that logo,
the Kojima Productions is basically the Foxhound logo.
Right, exactly. And also, with his final Smash, it's actually not that different from how it used to work before, but I am a little bit sad we lost the whole helicopter sequence with Snake being dropped or lowered onto the ladder, and now instead you have drone missiles or something.
Yeah, because that was really cool with him on the ladder. I always enjoyed that.
Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to Tuesday, where we got our first and only brand new music of the week, but continues a trend of having at least one new song a week, so I'm thankful for that. And this one is Noisy Notebook from Snipperclips, arranged by someone's name who I'm gonna totally butcher right now. Maki Kirioka, I think?
Nice.
Hey, alright! Cool.
There you go.
Killed it.
What's fun about this is actually this kind of ties into yesterday's update that we were just talking about, because this composer also worked on the Metal Gear Solid series. So that's actually really neat to have that little tie-in. I wonder if that was intentional for the order that they had it this week. So my quick impressions of this song, it sounds like Snipperclips in Smash Brothers style, which is fine. Like, you know, Snipperclips had like a cute little soundtrack, and I like how it's a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more suitable for fighting, I suppose. But what do you guys think?
I think it's cool that we finally have some indie recognition in Smash.
True.
Because while Nintendo published Snipperclips, it was just made by two guys. So it's extremely cool for them to actually represent this scene in Smash. And I've always loved the Snipperclips song, so it's great to have it in here. But I am kind of wondering where it will appear. Like, is it in a Snipperclips stage, or will they just shove it in somewhere else? That's really up for speculation at the moment.
Man, I like 50-50 on that.
Snipperclip stage would be really cool, though.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the concept of a Snipperclip stage almost sells itself. Like, that would be so cool to have, because that game already is so creative, and there are so many ways that you could work that into a Smash format, and I think that would be the coolest thing. But I'm kind of 50-50 on it, too. I could see there actually being a Snipperclip stage, but I could also just as easily see this being a song for, you know, one of the many miscellaneous Nintendo stages, like Pilot Wings, or Woohoo Island, or Wii Fit Studio, or, you know, one of those.
I mean, you're totally right. That's why you can go either way on this. But you know what? I'm gonna make things interesting. I'm going to say there will be a Smash or a Snipperclip stage here in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Because, as you mentioned, Nintendo did publish this game. It was a launch title on Nintendo Switch. I mean, it's actually a pretty big title, all things considered, for Nintendo. So I think there's a decent chance it'll get its own stage.
I hope so.
I like it. I mean, Electroplankton got a stage, so hopefully this can get a stage.
Yeah, good point.
True. But the stage possibilities are kind of endless for this, because you could have both Snip and Clip being platforms, and kind of like they cut into each other and change the shapes and make it all dynamic as the stage goes on. Or you can play off the actual puzzles from the games and incorporate those. So there's just so much you can do with a Snipperclip stage. So I am absolutely for them incorporating it in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as you said, the music itself is pretty much what you'd expect. It is this Noisy Notebook just sped up quite a bit and made much more suited for a fighting game. And it's good. I don't think it's as amazing as like what we got previously, but it's still good.
Yeah, the way I described it earlier, but I went back and listened to the original track too, and they're pretty similar. But I mean, it's distinct, but they are similar. And it reminded me of if Noisy Notebook were a Super Mario World song and he had hopped on Yoshi and adds the steel drums in.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it reminded me of.
It really does sound like that.
Right?
I love that, yeah.
Alright, let's go ahead and move on to a second update for Tuesday, being a new assist trophy, Sukapon. Now, if you don't know who Sukapon is, that's probably for a good reason, because it's from a Japanese Famicom game that never came out outside of Japan, called Joy Mecha Fight. Now, interestingly though, this isn't his debut in Smash Brothers, because this character also appeared in Smash Brothers Brawl as a sticker. Which, by the way, guys, I'm gonna throw it out there, so did the Stunt Race FX truck, so...
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Oh, no.
It's coming, man! I'm telling you, it can't be the Ultimate Smash Brothers game without Stunt Race FX in it somehow.
Stickers were the lame way to get more characters into Smash.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the description for this assist trophy reads, attacking with his detached fists and feet, Sukapon can even pick up opponents and throw them. Now, what this description leaves out is the fact that I didn't realize this because it doesn't get into it. This is actually a robot character, and his game was a fighting game. And I think Ash, you mentioned something interesting about this before we started recording.
Yeah. No, this just absolutely tickles me, because if I'm on the Wikipedia page right now for Sukapon, and literally his origin story, or the story behind him, is like almost beat for beat the same as Mega Man's. And like, basically, I'll just like read a little excerpt here. Sukapon was made by Dr. Little Iman and Dr. Ivan Walnuts, and when Dr. Walnuts declared his intent to rule the world, Dr. Iman used Sukapon to defeat Dr. Walnuts' robots and stop his evil scheme. And I'm like, this is so mega. It's literally the only difference is that Sukapon was built for comedy, whereas Rock was built as a housekeeping robot, and that is literally the only thing that differentiates them, which I find very funny.
I mean, I love the fact that he's basically a mech Rayman, so he's like a weird mixture of Rayman and Mega Man.
Yeah.
What I'm impressed by is that Nintendo still has characters obscure enough that can be a complete surprise to us in the States. It's like, who the hell is this guy? After 5 Smash Brothers games, we're still wondering who these characters are.
I know I've heard the name before. Like Sukapon is not a completely new name to me, but in terms of actually like doing the research and figuring out, you know, where Sukapon fits in Nintendo history and realizing that, hey, he has the same origin story as Mega Man, this is like my first time knowing more about him, or it.
And it is an interesting idea for a Smash, not a Smash, but it's an assist trophy, because what he does is actually just pick up opponents and throws them. He doesn't actually attack physically, he just tosses opponents around, which is very unique for an assist trophy.
I feel like the only other assist trophy I can think of that I think does that is Midna.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to Wednesday, where we have 2 brand new Pokemon, so I guess we'll just go and loop them together here. First off is one I'm also going to butcher, I'm sure. It's a Solgaleo.
Solgaleo.
Alright, there we go.
Yeah, close.
Alright, I tried.
Very close.
The description is, this Pokemon hits you as it charges back and forth across the stage, you'll take serious damage. And the other Pokemon, of course, also from Sun and Moon, I should have mentioned, is Lunala. And the description for this one is, this Pokemon shoots a powerful light beam through the stage. So I don't think these two are really any great surprise to Pokemon fans, if you follow the games at all, because they've typically been adding Pokemon from the newest games in here. But it does rule them out as playable characters, just in case anyone's holding out hope for them.
Right.
Yeah, so what do you guys think about these two?
I mean, they make sense. They've tossed in Legendary after Legendary for this, and they still have the Master Ball items, so yeah, of course, we're going to add more Legendaries. These two are the obvious ones. It would be kind of cool if we saw some of the weird and wacky Ultra Pokemon, or the Ultra Space Pokemon that appeared. Ultra Beast, excuse me, I'm blanking on the name, one of the terms. But yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. But otherwise, I mean, they're here, they do exactly what you'd expect as far as their signature moves from the game, and, you know, they look fun.
Yeah, you know, that's actually a good point, Derek. I was actually thinking the same thing, and it's kind of strange that, well, and there still could be, but as much sense as Solgaleo and Lunala make, I'd like to see an Ultra Beast, you know, Pokeball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so far we've only seen we've seen a few Alolan ones and some Alolan Kanto forms. So yeah, it'd be interesting just to see some more obscure Pokemon, and yeah, these kind of obvious ones because they're the box art Pokemon for Sun and Moon. But yeah, it'd be insanely cool to see some Ultra Beast. It'd be something completely different to anything we've seen yet from Smash items.
I just want to see Buzzwole running around punching everybody.
I would kind of like to see an across-the-board reduction in some of the legendaries, just kind of like overbearing just how incredibly powerful they are. Like, kind of like how the Final Smashes have been toned down over the years in various Smash games. Like, across the board, Final Smashes aren't as OP as they were in Brawl. I would kind of like to see the same done to Pokemon. So hopefully maybe like with Pokemon like Solgaleo and Lunala and other legendaries that we've seen over the years, hopefully their power will be toned down just a little bit to make them feel a little less crazy.
Oh, it'd be cool if when you're selecting the toggle for what items you want on, when you select the Pokeball, you can then change like what level they are. So have every Pokemon that comes out of this Pokeball be level 50 or something like that. so that way you can sort of like temper how powerful they are. I think that'd be a cool way of just sort of balancing out a little bit.
I can just hear, like, I can imagine myself being Sakurai and listening to these discussions and him just being like, it's never enough. These jerks, like, they just want more and more. They want all these different settings.
I mean, he spoils us, so we want more.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the idea of just being able to toggle Pokemon on and off, like specific Pokemon.
That would be cool, actually, yeah. I love that.
That'd be really cool.
I'm gonna say something bold, they'll probably give me some hate. I don't think Pokemon has ever been as fun in Smash as they were in the very first game. I don't know what exactly changed, but I haven't had as much fun using Pokeballs, like all Pokemon matches, as I have in that game. So
I can tell you what's changed, Andre. You don't know the Pokemon anymore. So you knew the Pokemon.
I was gonna say
that's probably part of it. I'll be honest.
It could also be because they were sprites in the original game, and maybe that makes them look a little bit more distinct. I don't know, but yeah, it's probably what Derek just said.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's my guess.
I just feel like there's a difference that I can't quite put my finger on in terms of just the way they behave, like overall.
Well, I mean, did you feel like that had come back when you were playing on the Self Company stage or Saffron City stage in Smash Ultimate? Like,
I mean, that stage is just pure magic, regardless.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's true. Yeah,
maybe that's all I need. Maybe I just need Saffron City and everything's gonna be hunky dory now. So
You know what would be even better? If we got Poke Floats.
Oh my god. Well, hey, that's a great segue into another
Yes.
point into a Wednesday update. Even though it didn't come from the blog itself, there was some information that came out of Famitsu magazine, who had an interview apparently with Bill and Nate from the Treehouse, as we did ourselves. However, they were a little bit more forthcoming with one specific piece of information, in which they held out on us, Ash. So I don't know,
right?
I don't know what changed between our interview and Famitsu's. Also, real quick, I want to give thanks to Source Gaming for translating this. But apparently, the crux of the matter is that they basically confirmed that not all stages will be returning. And hopefully, Poke Floats is part of that, because I hate that stage.
I love that stage. It's so fun.
Oh, it's so terrible. So terribly awful. So yeah, what do you guys think about this? But I thought it was something like that had occurred to us, especially with us finding, what, over 83 or 84 stages already in the game, John?
Something, I think it's 84 at the moment. I was kind of expecting every single stage ever to return, like including the final destinations and battlefields from every game. And it's kind of a surprise to hear they aren't. And to chime in on Poke Floats a moment, I think that stage actually wasn't. It was kind of rushed in development. Like they used the models from Pokemon Stadium as the actual the big Pokemon characters. So like that stage was just kind of put together at the last minute, but it somehow has a lot of love from the fan base. I'm siding with you there. Like, I'm not a fan of that stage at all. It's just so like chaotic,
Yeah.
and the platforms hardly even function as platforms.
If there's even a small chance that stage will appear in a random, in a random selection from a friend who hadn't turned it off, I'm gonna lose my cool. I don't want to play a Poke Floats.
How does Poke Floats work as a final destination stage? Like, what would you do?
I think someone had the idea that it was just an Onyx you ride on.
There you go.
I guess that works.
I mean, I feel like I kind of agree. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Poke Floats, but at the same time, if they can bring Big Blue back, which they are, I feel like Big Blue is only slightly less ridiculous in terms of just, the overall platforms and where you safe zones and just, the general flow of combat. So I feel like if Big Blue can come back, Poke Floats is not exactly that.
There is
crazy.
one key difference you're leaving out there, Ash, and that's the fact that Big Blue also has Big Blue's music playing
That
during
is
it.
a very good point. That is a fantastic point.
As far as all the stages, granted, this could still be a misinterpretation, mistranslation, because it's going from English to Japanese and back to English again.
That's a good point.
We are working with a game of telephone here, for lack of a better term, and it could be true, it could not be. I mean, the fact that we already have 84 stages, I mean, God. Like,
and that's including, keep in mind, we've probably barely seen much of the new stages too. I mean, we know of 3 new stages. I would guess at a minimum 15, at least 15 new stages, and I think that's at a bare minimum. So I don't think we've seen all the returning ones either. Especially because, as John mentioned, I would love if they actually did something along the lines of bringing back some of the classic stages that we've never seen since. Whether it's like earlier versions of Final Destination, or even some of those early stages from Smash Bros. 64 that you could only play as part of the campaign, like the Metal Cavern or whatever it was called, where you fought Metal Mario.
No, I absolutely agree. I would love to see, like, fan servicey things like that. Yeah, again, like Metal Cavern or stages that weren't typically selectable before. And but I don't know. Like, just hearing that not all stages are returning, I don't know about you guys, but I have already canceled my pre-order. 0 out of 10. Garbage game, lazy devs. Like, what are we even talking about? No. But no, I mean, look, you guys have already said it. We've already got at least 84 stages at a bare minimum coming in this game. And as you said, Andre, I think probably we can expect probably around 15, but maybe 10, 15. Either way, I could see the stage count in this game breaking 100, which is
it will break 100.
insane.
No question.
Yeah. And that's just nuts.
I think we're at the point where there's 30 stages or so that aren't returning, and so out of all in the entirety of Smash, we have 30 stages plus those N64 ones that weren't playable, and so it's kind of hard to imagine what won't be in there at this point.
Right.
But I imagine it's probably just the stuff that wouldn't translate too well to the Omega forms and the Battlefield forms, which really isn't that many stages. Like, most of them are fairly static.
Yeah.
I don't think we've actually seen the Ice Climber stage from Melee return yet, and I wonder if that's going to make an appearance.
Hopefully not.
I'm not a fan of those vertical stages like what Donkey Kong got in Brawl or the
Rumble Fall.
Yeah. We haven't seen that either.
It's coming back. You know why? Because they added ladder attacks. So there's no way a stage based entirely around ladders isn't coming back.
That is true.
That's a good point.
That stage
I mean,
sucks,
the other
though.
thing is, I liked how there was a comment on the update video that we did, the first one that you see, and it's basically somebody saying, so this basically means that only Miiverse is cut, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Miiverse is such a weird stage to me originally. I mean, just because it was just Battlefield with a boring skin that popped up random messages. And then they cut its life short by turning off Miiverse, so it was such a weird stage. How great would it be if literally every stage did come back except for Miiverse and Pokefloats? I'd be okay with that.
That would not be great, because I love the Miiverse stage. And you say it's random messages, but see, that's exactly what I love about it. It wasn't random, because the later into the Wii U's lifespan it got, and the more Nintendo gave up on it, the more you could reliably expect that it would be just absolute smut all the time.
Oh, God.
And because it's Smash Brothers and it's Nintendo, it's supposed to be pure and kid-friendly, but it so was not toward the end of the Wii U's lifespan, and that's... I don't know. I just love the absolute chaos that could ensue with the Miiverse stage. However,
I mean,
you want to talk about chaos real quick? I mean, I've told this story in the podcast before.
Yeah, I know.
But we have to make it official in the Smash Brothers discussion. And this is probably why I hate it and why you love this stage, because you were just reading. So we were at Ash's house during E3 a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now, during one of the Game of Thrones finals. And he was just reading messages in the background, and one of them said, just literally, Jon Snow dies. And Ash read that out loud without having any knowledge, apparently, so he claims, of who Jon Snow was.
That's actually true!
Because the show had already aired on the East Coast or whatever for HBO, so we hadn't seen it on the West Coast yet. And the blood just rushed down my face. I'm like... You better be joking now, Ash. If that just happened, oh my god.
I legitimately felt bad then, and I still do now, because, I mean, yes.
I don't believe that.
I mean, as much as I do, no, honestly, as much as I do love the Miiverse stage and the chaos that can ensue from the messages
real life
that appear,
chaos.
I am so against spoilers, and I was actually about to say that before you brought that story up, is... The bad side of it was people posting spoilers. And, when Star Wars Episode 7 came out, I immediately saw the Han Solo dies stuff coming. And, that stuff sucks. I wish we could keep it just to the smutty stuff, because that was funny. But
by the way...
Let's keep it pure.
By the way, though, that was the first and only message you read, so...
I know.
Yeah, that is the only thing you read. You didn't bother with anything else. Just Ash going, Jon Snow dies, and I've read the book, so I knew that was coming. But I knew Andre hadn't seen it yet. Hadn't seen it yet. So he said that. I'm like, and he looks at me, and I'm like, I'm not saying a damn word.
Arguably, an entire series leading up to this point, and the two biggest moments in this series being that, or two what I would consider, and I think what many would consider the biggest moments in the series, probably being that and the Red Wedding, were spoiled for me by two different jerks. So, thank you, guys, for ruining it for me.
Hey, but hopefully the other one was intentional, because mine still was completely on accident. I don't know. I just love the other. I don't know. I have so many Miiverse stories about Smash that I don't know if I can even repeat on this discussion, because they're all just aching around.
This is a ready discussion. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I don't know. I just miss the weird juxtaposition of of Nintendo's family-friendly image, which they're utterly just having given up on Wii U and not trying to moderate it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool and all, but if I remember correctly, we still haven't seen any sign of Brinstar Depths or Fountain of Dreams, which is really weird, because Fountain of Dreams was one of my favorite stages from Melee. And Brinstar's Depths, I believe that's the one that had Kraid in the background, correct?
Right, and it's where the stage rotated.
Yeah,
right.
I want to see HD Kraid and rotating stage. That's a lot of fun.
Fountain of Dreams has to come back. That's been such a long time fan favorite for Melee, and it didn't come back as DLC in Smash 4. I just feel like an HD Fountain of Dreams makes too much sense. People want it back.
Oh, hell yeah, they do. Yeah. I think it's coming back, even if it really is just Battlefield and also by extension just Kirby's Dream Land. It's just a little bit more vertical version of them. It has such a unique aesthetic to it. I think it absolutely needs to come back, and as you're saying, would look great in HD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what other stages we find out are making the return. And I can't wait for us, I hope they start showing off more of these stages, but I want to talk about more of these stages. So
seriously?
I know what's funny is the stage part, the stage section of the site hasn't even opened up yet.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Hold on, real quick. There's 20. We know there's 84 stages. There is how many weeks I said left? 23 weeks left. That means we could potentially be talking about 3.5 stages per week, and they're just not giving it to us right
now. Oh my god.
Yep.
I think all they talked about so far is Battlefield as a stage.
Battlefield, and then we were able to touch on Final Destination a little bit last week because they presumably showed it off in one or in a couple of the screenshots. But yeah, a lot of untapped potential there.
They seem to be taking kind of a scattershot approach to these updates anyway, because there's like no verifiable pattern with like the character overviews. That's because they started this week with Corrin, and then they had Snake, and then Donkey Kong. Okay, what?
Hey, well, there we go. There's our segue into Thursday, the final update for the week, and it was in fact a character overview of Donkey Kong. The description reads, his charged punch is one of the strongest attacks in the game. In Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, its final smash has been updated from Conga Beat to a flurry of punches. So yeah, I mean, Donkey Kong seems to be pretty much the same character as before. I mean, from what I can tell, like, I can't see any big difference here aside from the final smash that they pointed out. So yeah, what do you guys think about DK, of course, being back?
I noticed one quite cool thing. In the trailer, when he picks up Princess Peach, he like puts her over his shoulder with just like one hand, and it's really similar to how he does it with Pauline in Donkey Kong, in the original Donkey Kong. Because usually in Smash, he'll sort of like pick them up with two hands, kind of like how he throws a barrel almost. So it's really cool to sort of see him like...
That is a really good point.
Yeah, I wonder if like maybe depending on the character's size, he'll sort of hold them differently. Because Peach is quite small, you can just like shove her over his shoulder, but maybe with like King Dedede, he can just kind of do it like a barrel almost. So yeah, I wonder if that's going to change. I wonder how he's going to pick up Ridley, actually. I want to see that.
That I do want to see, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I'm thrilled that he's got a new Final Smash. Like, Conga Beat, whatever. Like, yes, I know Donkey Konga was a thing, but that was such a minor touchstone in DK's overall career. And
exactly.
I mean, he's Donkey Kong. He's known for raw strength. He's known for power. Like, he should have a flurry of punches. He should always have had that for his Final Smash.
Yeah. I mean, we should absolutely reference another bongo game.
Yeah, right. No, Ash, you say he should have always had the flurry of punches, but I do like that it, as far as I know, like it explicitly is referencing I was going to say Donkey Country Returns and Tropical Freeze, which I think is what they're doing, but also could technically be referencing Jungle Beat, which had a similar thing as well.
And most recently, he actually does this in Mario & Rabbids in the new DLC. So it's cool to see that they're still bringing it around into the most modern games.
Exactly. I mean, even if it's not based on something specific from a game, but I agree. It's either probably Jungle Beat or Donkey Kong Country Returns or Tropical Freeze. But either way, it still fits his character more than playing drums. Like that always bothered me. Not only did that Final Smash suck in Brawl, it was like one of the worst. It was made better in Smash 4, but still, like, when you think Donkey Kong, you think, power. You don't think, oh, I'm gonna, play drums. Like, it's just, it never sat right with me.
Although I'm a little surprised he hated that much, considering you're a big fan of rhythm games, and he had the only rhythm-based Final Smash.
Yeah, but I mean, it was rhythm-based, and I mean, in the sense that, like, it was so basic. I mean, come on. It was a rhythm game, like, yeah, right, come on. It was like, there was no timing to it, very little at least.
Here's the real question, though. Does DK have his new nose?
I think so.
I
want to say yes.
Yeah, I want to say yes as well.
Yeah, but it's got the ridges. I think that's the main most distinct factor of it, is like it's got the raised ridges. It feels so weird to be analyzing.
I'm saying only in Smash Weekly Roundups will you get us analyzing DK's nostrils.
In a more macro sense, there was one thing I want to touch on. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it is just me. I don't think they've ever gotten DK's look quite right, but I don't know. There's something about him that's just not quite right to me, and I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's a lack of fur effects now, especially in comparison to his amazing fur effects in Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze, or especially Tropical Freeze. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, he doesn't look bad. It's just that he never looks quite right to me, and I don't know why that is.
I think it's definitely the fur. Like, they always go for this flat texture to try and represent it in Smash, and it never looks right. Like, even in Smash Wii U had this kind of fuzzy texture, and it looks okay at some angles, but in others it just looks completely flat. And in most of the shots they're using here, it looks off. Like, this doesn't look like the Donkey Kong that we come to expect, really.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I know what the problem is, and it's the same problem that Diddy has in Smash, and that is that Dixie is not here, because they both don't look right without Dixie there as the third, kind of rounding them out.
How cool would it have been if that's how they updated Donkey Kong, by giving him that partner character from Returns and Tropical Freeze?
That'd be so good.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool, although I really still would want Dixie as her own character, because I just think Dixie Kong's, like, she's always been my favorite Kong. So I still really wish she was in this game, and I know she's probably not going to be, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Well, You know, I don't know. I'm holding out hope. I mean, this is, again, the Ultimate Smash. You gotta have Dixie in there, right? So, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Donkey Kong's moveset, most of it in its entirety, but how cool would it have been if, like, his down B was bringing out Cranky Kong and using his pogo stick cane, or, like, his recovery could have been Dixie's little hair twirl or something like that.
Oh, man.
Oh, that'd have been so cool.
I don't know exactly how they would do it, but I think it would be really funny if they replaced, like, his down special, his headbutt, with just, like, the blowing mechanic from Returns. I don't know how they would do it at all.
After cutting it from Tropical Freeze, too, that'd be even better.
Even better, yeah, from Returns. Like, I don't even know how they would make that work within the context of Smash, but it would be really funny. Or just make blowing attack, or like a taunt. Or something.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Yeah.
There is one other detail from the trailer that I actually appreciate. There's a scene of Peach using Toad to protect herself from Donkey Kong, and they changed the animation on that. Before, she was holding up a helpless Toad. Now it's a Toad putting his arms out, like protecting her actually, while she hides behind it. And I love that little change in animation. It actually it changes the context so much.
Oh, it totally does. It makes Peach look less demented now. You know, and holding the poor Toad out against his free will. Like, he looked terrified before. But now he's like, you know what, I got this. I'm Peach's bodyguard, don't worry. And he still failed, but whatever. He tried. By the way, real quick, when DK like first grabs Peach, look into his eyes. He's got like a murderous rage going on there.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. They in the Direct, they used DK as a demonstration for the new facial animations, because I think in Smash 4 they would sort of change out their faces,
right?
But now they're actually animated, which is really cool to see. And like you can see scenes where his eyes kind of like bulge out, and it just looks really cool. Like this is way ahead of Smash 4.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's a little touches that really add up to the greater whole, and I think there's so many small little details are adding here that it contributes to the game looking very much not like a port. I still don't get those arguments. This isn't a port!
No, it really isn't.
Alright, so that brings us to the end of the week, unfortunately. There was no update on Friday, so we're ending it on Donkey Kong, except we're not, because we debuted a new feature last week where we answer one question from one of our patrons. Now, if you'd like to support us and ask your own questions, you can for just $1 a month, and you'll find a link to that in the description below, and you'll get other benefits too, like early access to the podcast and exclusive access to a VIP room of our Discord. So this week's Smash question comes to us by way of Patreon backer Adam Harris, who asks, "This seems to happen every Smash hype cycle, but Sakurai more than ever seems to be suggesting that this may be his last Smash Bros. Game. Whether or not this is true is yet to be seen, but if this next iteration of Super Smash Bros. Is created under a different director, who do you think would be a good fit for the job?" So I think this question is kind of multifaceted, but I think there are a few things to touch on here. One, do we really think that the Sakurai's last Smash Bros. Would we be okay with that, and who could replace him? So, John, you've been making a lot of Smash Brothers videos for us recently. What are your thoughts on this? Like, what is this Sakurai's last take on the series? Do you think that's a likely outcome? And what do you think that could mean for the next, or for the evolution of Smash Brothers?
I feel like every single Smash Bros. Ever could have been Sakurai's last one. Like Brawl could have been it, Smash for Wii U could have been it, and now this could be it. But it really does feel like he's going all out this time. Like, he's bringing everything back. He's putting his all in. And I can see this being the last one, and I kind of want it to be. Because when Sakurai goes out and makes his own IPs with new games, or even revitalizes old ones, we have some brilliant results. Like, I know Uprising wasn't to everyone's tastes, but the ambition of that game was, like, you can't really argue against that. The ambition of Kid Icarus Uprising was just massive. So I'd love for Sakurai to go on and do more games that aren't just Smash. But at the same time, he's such a perfectionist, and it would just be strange to have Smash without him. And to the point where I can't even really imagine another director at the helm. I mean, obviously Bandai Namco are kind of being groomed as the new studio for Smash, so I imagine maybe a director or producer on maybe the Soul Calibur series could maybe step in.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but yeah, it's really hard to imagine Smash without Sakurai, but I think it can be done. He's put the template out there. And maybe even Smash Ultimate might even be like a games as a service almost, where we have the base game now, and then another director comes in, adds more over the Switch's life cycle.
It's kind of a counterpoint to that, because I had been doing the Smash's special updates recently about the Famitsu columns that Smash, or that Sakurai has been kind of detailing Smash Ultimate's development in, and as much as I have been thinking, yeah, each one kind of sounds like this is going to be his last one, and that he's kind of wants to get out of it and do something else, the way he ended off that column, especially in part 2, it kind of sounded like to me that if it's up to him, Smash Ultimate won't be his last one. Like, the way he... Again, I kind of thought he wanted out, but then the way he worded the column, at least according to Source Gaming's translations, was, you know, Smash is special to me, and that he, despite the fact that some people want me to make other things, if Nintendo comes to me and asks me to make another Smash game, I feel like I need to prioritize that because Smash is special. And so it sounds to me like, as long as Nintendo keeps wanting him to work on Smash, he's at least interested in doing it. And I'm kind of with you, John. I can't see anyone else other than Sakurai. However, I'm going to kind of diverge from your opinion and say I don't think there's anyone else that I can think of who I would trust with the series. Like, I cannot imagine Smash without Sakurai, and of course it's going to happen someday. It's going to have to, but I can't think of a single other director who is so laser focused on fan service and getting the feel of a character so perfectly right. I don't know if there's anyone else who can do it.
There was one thing when Smash Ultimate was revealed, Sakurai's direct tweet from his own Twitter account said something along the lines of, "May I cry now?" Whereas from the English account, it didn't say that at all. And some people actually think that's in reference to Iwata.
Okay.
Like, some people think that maybe he's put the effort into this game for Iwata's sake, and that crying thing was in reference to that.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
That's...
Well, we know they were close.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course. I mean, Sakurai was sitting in the audience when Iwata announced Super Smash Bros. Is coming to Wii, before Sakurai even knew he would be making it. So it was only after that meeting, or it was only after that that press conference when they had a meeting together, and that's when Iwata was like, "Hey, can you make Super Smash Bros. Brawl for us?" Because Sakurai was no longer an employee of Nintendo's at that point. He went off to do his own thing. So yeah, they have there's a definite history there. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty touching when you say that, John. I mean, in that sense, it shows, like, you know, I mean, Sakurai really is, I mean, he's responsible for Smash. He has been. He's an intrinsic part of it. At the same time, for me personally, like, I hope it's time for him to move on, you know? Like, I hope Nintendo doesn't ask him to come back. They probably will, you know, I mean, it'd be insulting not to. But I almost feel like Sakurai has Stockholm Syndrome at this point, where he's stuck to this series. And I think it'd be good for everyone if he just moves on, because Smash Brothers itself, I mean, it's a series, a template is there, as you said. I mean, it's a steam engine at this point. You can't slow it down. There's so much momentum behind it. Like, I feel like you could find a competent director to be able to take over the reins. And keep in mind too, it's not just Sakurai, even though he is helming the ship. It's a whole team making these games now, and now we've had 2 in a row made by Bandai Namco. So there are people who are familiar enough with the series to keep it going under the guidance of someone else without completely derailing the thing. And also, I think, for as awesome as Smash Bros. Ultimate looks, and I'm sure it's going to be an amazing game, I'd be fine with Smash Bros. Maybe taking a slightly different direction. Like, I would love to see what the series will look like under someone else's guidance. You know, if this is the Ultimate Smash, I think what better way to pay tribute to the series and do something else different for the next one. You can't get better than Ultimate, right? So do something different, do something in a slightly different direction. And also, more than that, I want to see Sakurai do something else. We've already got Kid Icarus Uprising, which I know is some of your guys' like favorite games among their favorite games of all time. And he's also made the, of course, equally amazing Kirby Air Ride. So I would love to see what else Sakurai can do.
Kid Icarus Air Ride.
There you go.
There you go.
We've seen 5 or 6 Smash Brothers games now under Sakurai's guidance. I would love to see what else he can put out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty much in agreement with you guys. Sakurai is, you know, he is the head. Everybody knows Sakurai. They treat him like, you know, as this apex because he is just such a perfectionist when it comes to this. And whether it's his last game or not, it's hard to say. He's friends with Kojima, so I guess he's picked up the habit of, like Kojima's like, oh yeah, this will be my last game, and then continues to make the next one. But with how much effort he's putting into Ultimate, how it's just a compilation of everything that's come before it, it does feel like there's this sense of finality to it, at least as far as his roundup, or his participation with the series and role with it. And like Andre, I totally think that another director could come in and be fine and take the series in an interesting direction, because let's be honest, let's be real, he also helped create Kirby and made some really great Kirby games, and he's not helped with Kirby in a long time, and I would say that there's some Kirby games out here almost better than some of the stuff that he made during his time at HAL. So directors can come, new ideas can form, and the series can keep growing and becoming better under different directions. Sakurai is great. Sakurai is amazing at what he does. But I'd love, like Andre, I want to see what else he could do. Maybe get a Kid Icarus symbol sequel, or get something else from him. But I don't think Smash Brothers would flounder, especially after how many games. People know what it is. Younger fans are now that grew up with the series are now getting into game development. They know what it's all about, and they want to continue it, work on it, and make it something great. So I think we are at a good time where we can almost change hands and continue the series with him working on potentially something else if he wants to.
Touching briefly on the younger generation, I think some of Nintendo's most interesting games recently have come from the younger developers.
Yeah.
So maybe it'd be interesting to take some of maybe the ARMS crew or something and put them on Smash, have some of their new fresh ideas.
Well, and there are ways that Sakurai can remain involved with the series without being a director. You know, he could shift into a producer role or a consultant role and still be involved and kind of leave his mark on it, or at least provide advisement or guidance, but not necessarily be the director and be down in the trenches and, you know, balancing things by himself or with a very small team of people. Like, he can still be involved in a macro sense and, you know, and kind of help guide whoever comes in to, you know, to direct newly. But yeah, I mean, I do hear you. Like, it's hard for me to envision someone other than Sakurai, you know, treating Smash the way that I want it to be treated. However, it's going to happen. I mean, it's inevitable, and I do think that they will find somebody, but there are ways that Sakurai could remain involved in kind of like a, you know, just a light sense if he wanted to.
And you're right, Ash. I mean, Miyamoto no longer directs Zelda games. Aonuma doesn't even direct Zelda games anymore, but they're still hands-on with producer roles, guiding the series, making sure the ideas are set, maybe making some suggestions about where things can go. And Sakurai could easily fill that same role where he just stays on as executive producer and sort of like, hey, what do you think about this? Okay, that's pretty cool, but let's do this instead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you've said, we've seen other Nintendo developers do that, like Aonuma, and, you know, I mean, and actually, speaking to the rest of your points, that could end up being a great thing. Like, I don't know how much I actually want to see Smash change, necessarily, with the next entry, because I know you do, Andre, and I can see why, and I get why you would say that. However, to, you know, as a point in your favor, we got Breath of the Wild when a younger development team stepped up and kind of Aonuma stepped back into a producer role. So, you know, and that brought fresh life into the series, brought a breath of fresh air into the series, as it were. So, you know, there are definite, you know, I would like to see it keep going the way it is and keep making that roster bigger, but at the same time, as you guys have said, we have Smash Ultimate, and it almost does feel like we're reaching a point of finality with the series, not necessarily for Smash or for Sakurai's involvement, if he wants to stay involved, but in terms of how much further can they really push this concept.
I mean, and Sakurai even commented on that. Like, he doesn't.
Right.
He thinks they may not be able to do this again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I know who I want as a director for the next Smash Brothers, actually. Oh. And that would be, I know I'm going to mispronounce this, maybe Tatsuya Hishida, I believe, who was involved with, like, Mario Maker, some of the Pokemon Stadium games, a whole bunch of games in Nintendo. Most importantly, he was a director of Stunt Race FX, so I can finally
you
get
specifically looked at
I see that one coming.
All right, well then, if we're gonna go there, I'm gonna say, okay, I actually have thought of someone. I want Tak Fuji to direct the next Smash Brothers,
God.
And I know Tom would agree with me on that because that was the best interview ever, and I think him doing a new Smash Brothers would be just, I don't even know what we would end up with, but it would be
you'd
insane.
end up with DK Smile Smash coming back to the rhythm-based bongo.
That's true. It would probably just be a bunch of rhythm game characters in Smash, yeah.
Super Smash Brothers Extreme.
Yes. Nice.
Alright, so I think that covers it for this week's question. Thanks, Adam Harris, for asking it. And again, if you want to ask your own questions, just support us on Patreon for just $1, and we might choose it for next week. And with that, that's pretty much everything from this past week for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain to find out even more about everything we do. And of course, stay tuned for week 4 of our Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Roundup. Catch you later. Bye.